In today's economic climate, with inflation soaring and interest rates reaching unprecedented highs, the dream of homeownership can feel increasingly out of reach for many. However, if you are willing to make compromises, there are still hidden gems waiting to be discovered for every budget. Hi everyone, Ken here. I've scoured the internet to bring you a selection of affordable, charming, and historic dream homes, ranging from $500,000 down to under $100,000. As we explore these beautiful properties together, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below with what you like best, any features you dislike, or what you would do to make one of these homes your dream home. The first house we're going to look at today is located in New York. It has over 3,800 square feet, 6 beds, 4 baths, and was built in 1875. So the style of this house is Italianate, and as we can see, it's all monochromatically finished, all in yellows. Really cheerful, really stately. It has amazing curb appeal. But the interior is the real reason I chose this house. We can see right off the bat from the entryway that it has this beautiful spiral staircase, pointed passageway into the dining room, which I know we'll see more of in a moment. And in the living room here, we find that it has what's most likely the original fireplace mantle with its summer cover. And just look at all these different layers of millwork up on the ceiling, the crown. This has just a lot of those period features that have been maintained throughout the years. So even if you might not be a fan of the furnishings or the carpet, something like that, you can really truly envision what the space could be, especially with a library like this. I mean, this is an absolute dream right here for most people, especially in this price range, just to find a house this complete and in this good of condition. And then we get to the dining room where these finishes continue. We have a very similar fireplace. We have these intricate window surrounds with the built-in plantation shutters or louvres, depending on how you call them. We'll just kind of zip through this house. The kitchen, I mean, look, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, and honestly, if you can afford to maintain a historic house in this price range, you might be able to swing a few bucks at the kitchen to really make the space your own, but otherwise, I mean, it's perfectly livable as it is. And then, of course, the bedrooms on the second floor look very large. Once again, we can see that it has these really ornate window surrounds. It has a plaster medallion on the ceiling. And I mean, it's a really charming house all the way around. And then it looks like at the very end of this listing, they've also included a floor plan for us. And I'm going to have all of these linked down below in the video description if you wanted to take the time to see them, because I know a few of these also have the 3D tour options where you can walk around and explore the house from different angles. And sometimes the photography isn't quite as great as just being in there and looking around. So let's go ahead and move on to the next house. Our next house is on the opposite side of the country in California. It's listed for $488,000, has over 3,700 square feet, 5 beds, 3 baths, and it has, once again, a lot of just really beautiful curb appeal. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. We can start going through these photos. We can see it's perched atop a hill and has these really sweeping views of what looks like maybe mountains or a valley down below. I mean, this just looks like a really idealistic setting, lots of room for parking, beautiful garden. Yeah, this is a gorgeous area, and then this giant loggia that you can just hang out on. And then we get inside. This is the part that I was most excited to show you all, just because it's so clean, so fresh, and we can tell that a lot of love has been put into maintaining this house over the years. Some things to point out, of course, we notice the exposed beams on the ceiling, the beautiful wooden staircase, the really interesting door surrounds, but then we can also see a key pattern on the floor, which was something that was really popular back in the time period when this house was built. And then we get to the dining room. We have the half-height wainscoting with some really artistic motifs going on in it. And once again, for this price point, there are just things that you could come in here and customize, but things that you can't replicate in a new build for the same kind of price point are like the rounded walls, the rounded window surrounds, the decorative radiator covers, the crystal chandeliers. Like, these are all things that you would have to pay a craftsman a ton of money to just get back today. And that's one of those things we see a lot whenever we look at older homes, is you can get a level of artistry that you might not be able to otherwise afford if you were buying it brand new. So even if there are some drawbacks for you, like I know this kitchen and living room, it kind of looks maybe like a 70s edition, not so period appropriate, but there might be wiggle room in your budget if you're looking at houses in this price point. And once again, you go into it with the mindset of, having a little bit extra to maintain these types of historic homes and give them the attention and the care that they truly deserve. Because if you do that, your reward is rooms like this. I mean, imagine waking up in this bedroom every morning with those views going out over that valley, all the glass, bright lights and windows. I mean, This is one of those homes that you could just see yourself growing old in. And then we get to the bathroom, and I know it might seem really off by today's standards, but at one time, this was like the very height of fashion. Having the mint green tiles as well as the fixtures and everything matching. This is super retro, and personally, I love this kind of vibe. And I hope that whoever does end up buying this house doesn't go too crazy with renovations and keeps this just the way it is. Because bathrooms are one of those things that people tend to rip out all the time, but occasionally you find stuff like this, and it's just an absolute treasure that no one has changed this over the years. For our next house, we're going to go back over to the East Coast in Pennsylvania. It is listed for $475,000, was built in 1880, 5 beds, 4 baths, and just over 4,000 square feet. This second Empire style home is another one of those absolute treats. And even before we get to the front door, we can see that it has this fantastic veranda. And let's take a moment to just really absorb all of this woodwork. I mean, the gingerbreading along the veranda is fantastic. And then we open the front door, and it is just so warm and inviting. You have that large knoll post with all that intricate relief work just bathing in the light of that stained glass window at the stair landing. And this is a really fun house. So even though we're going down in price, we're going to see this kind of happen for a little while, where the house's quality actually increases as we drop the budget lower and lower and lower. Yeah, just buckle up and enjoy the ride for this one. We have these half-height bookcases built into the wall here, this beautiful fireplace, both lower and upper mantle, finished out and preserved beautifully. And then we get to the dining room. There's just a simple chair rail and wallpaper, but still, you could imagine what this space really could be if you were willing to kind of put in the work. Not that you would need to, because this is really gorgeous as is. And then we get to the kitchen, and I'm really glad that even though it is updated, they did not go with white cabinets. They chose to stick with the same kind of dark wood to match the rest of the house. So even whenever you do update a kitchen in a historic home, it's kind of important to tie in the existing woodwork, existing motifs. And the same is true for bathrooms too. You don't want it to just stick out and look like it could be in any other house. You want to try to tie it in as best you can. And I think that just keeping with the same wood tones and then incorporating, like we see above the double oven here, they have the crystal knobs. Those are just those great little details that just help tie everything back together. So this next series of pictures is really interesting. We can see where we would have walked through the vestibule down below where the front door is. And then as we turn around and go up a few more steps, we see where that stained glass window is at the landing. And it's just nice to be able to get a close-up shot of these types of details, because the little details are what really makes the house. And speaking of details, this brings us to the bathroom. We have the mosaic floor, there's a mural on the ceiling, and then there's all of this like faux marbling on the doors and cabinets. And while this most likely is not original, there is something to be said about the faux marbling, because back in the Victorian era, if you could not afford real marble, which was most of the upper middle class, you would have an artist come in and faux marble for you. So you might have baseboards, cabinets, whatnot made look like stone. And it absolutely is period correct to do that. And this is just really neat. Now we're in another bathroom with a copper clawfoot tub, the shower. It's little things like this that just really take you back to the time period when this house was actually built. For our next listing, we're heading to Omaha, Nebraska. This Queen Anne style house is listed for $459,000, has 7 beds, 3 baths, and over 3,600 square feet of living space. This is one that is a little bit different from the other ones we've viewed so far. That is mostly in the way that it's being presented. It's not furnished with period appropriate pieces, but rather has modern furniture, which I think is really neat, because not everyone wants to live like they are in some sort of a Victorian era museum, which is fine. You know, your house, your rules, and this just shows that you can really make it your own, and kind of how you can update the space for modern living without betraying its architectural merit, which is something that's really important whenever you do decide to buy a historic home, is just realizing that this type of woodwork can't really be replicated today. Once it's gone, it's realistically never going to be put back into the house. So just seeing that, even though it's furnished with modern furnishings and has, modern paint colors, stuff like that, whoever decided to do this also decided to keep the historical charm of the house and preserve that for future generations. So there's this balance between personal taste and kind of what needs to stay original for the next occupants of the house to continue enjoying it as it was meant to be. And I think, people get a pass on furniture, they get a pass on wall colors because all of those things are going to change with the next owners anyways. And as long as you're maintaining these houses, keeping these beautiful pocket doors, the wainscoting, all of that, that's the stuff that really matters. Those are the true bones of the house that once they're gone, once again, you can just never get those back. And it's not a historically accurate kitchen by any means, but it is kind of a play on some of those older motifs, from the tiled floor to the tin ceiling, the stove sitting off by itself on a brick wall, which is probably where like a magic chef would have been at one point. So it's just kind of fun to see how this has been reinvented, even though it's all modern, it's all brand new. It's just really fun to see those things. All right, so I think we've seen just about everything I wanted to show you in this house, so let's go ahead and move on to the next. The next house we're going to see is listed in Milwaukee, and this is one of my favorite houses on the market right now. In my free time, I do sometimes doom scroll on Zillow, just kind of dream shopping, and I don't put in any price parameters. I usually just set it to like 1930 and before, and just kind of see what's out there. And this is one that I've come back to a couple times really looking at. It's listed for $449,000, 5-bed, 3-bath, and over 5,200 square feet of living space. So let's just start going through this. Also, it was built in 1901, so this is a little newer than the homes we've already been looking at, but oh my goodness, is it a treat to walk through. We can see that it has its stained glass in the windows, it has ornate plasterwork on the ceiling, it has these gorgeous fireplaces all throughout the house. And just as we go through this, we're going to just keep seeing these treasures pop out in every single corner of the house. And I really appreciate that whoever did the real estate photos for this listing went ahead and took some detail shots, because when we look at these in like our normal house profile videos, we don't always get the clearest shot of the artisanry that's involved. But I mean, here you can see just how really delicately these things are crafted, because I mean, this house is just phenomenal. From the floor to the ceiling, we see inlaid woodwork, we see these beautiful pieces of hardware, and then we can see how it just all really comes together. And we can imagine that this is made in a time when, machines are emerging and we're starting to be able to mass produce objects, but then you still have artists coming into the house and spending sometimes years finishing off each and every room to make them absolutely perfect. And it's that kind of quality that you just don't get anymore. This is just such a joy to go through this. All the bedrooms in this house are pretty plain, but they're all pretty open as well. So you can imagine if you were to be the person who bought this house that you could pretty much do anything you wanted with those. But it's just these other details and just how grand this curb appeal is that is the true draw to this house. And hopefully whoever buys this house is buying it because they appreciate these details and want to enjoy it and hopefully preserve it for future generations to enjoy as well. That wraps up the category of $400,000 to $500,000. Now we're seeing our first listing under $400,000 at $399,000 with 5-bed, 3-bath, and over 5,200 square feet of living space. This house is in Indiana, and the listing says it was built in 1869. The Second Empire style house might seem quaint, but we just saw the square footage, so we know the interior is about to blow us away. It looks like you pass through the vestibule, swing open double doors, and then arrive in the entry hall, with a grand staircase bringing you up to the second floor, but I believe these pictures are in order, so yeah. We'll go ahead and start exploring on the first floor here. We see that it still has its radiator in place, oversized baseboards. It has wood paneling below the windows. There are a lot of treats in this house, a lot of wallpaper as well, but if that's your vibe, then by all means, enjoy. And also, I'm not sure how high these ceilings are, but I believe these are probably taller than any of the other houses we've looked at so far, so if you're claustrophobic, this might be a good option for you. And then we get to the kitchen. Once again, people get a pass on bathrooms and kitchens. You've got to be able to live a modern lifestyle. It's my own opinion that it's kind of unrealistic to expect people to still cook on a wood-burning stove inside and just kind of have that be their everyday way of life. But in a house this large, it would be nice to see, maybe one bathroom that's kept kind of the way it was around the turn of the century when indoor plumbing became really popular. And we do see that actually in this picture. We've got the clawfoot tub, and I don't know if it's original or not, but it is nice to see those kind of callbacks. And then this is just so grand. Imagine climbing to the top of your staircase and just looking down. That'd be quite a sight to see every day. So the rest of the house is just kind of like this. It's kind of like what we've already seen so far. So we'll go ahead and skip over to the next one. And now for something a little different. This house is listed for $394,000 in New Mexico. It's 4-bed, 3-bath, over 3,400 square feet, and was built in 1875. We don't see a lot of adobe style homes on this channel, and it's not really my area of expertise, though I do dabble a little bit. But either way, I mean, this kind of rustic beauty is just something to really be adored. And it might not be my personal style, but I absolutely can enjoy this. And if this was an Airbnb, I could see myself staying here easily. I mean, it's got that kind of rustic charm, even though it has a lot of updates throughout it as well. And this house isn't the most period accurate, but it does have some really nice features. So once again, this will be down in the video description if you want to continue exploring this house on your own. And now we're going to head up to Fort Dodge, Iowa, which is a beautiful town that's known for its stately architecture, but also, I mean, it is incredibly affordable. If you want to live in a palatial mansion on a budget, this is kind of the place to do it. So this house is listed at $379,000. It has 6 beds, 4 baths, and over 5,700 square feet. It was built in 1903, and it's got pretty much everything you would expect of a mansion of that time period. So let's begin going through it. Starting with the front porch, where we have a tile mosaic rug and an intricate door surround, these huge brick columns. And this is an arts and crafts style home. It's like the mega version of my own home if you did see my house tour about a year ago. This is kind of the giant version of that. So we step into the entry hall, wood floors throughout, huge newel post at the grand staircase, an ingle nook to keep us warm in those chilly Iowa winters. The oversized wainscoting skirts the entire room, and I mean, this is quite the treat. So as we head into the next room, we'll have to use our imaginations because this house is empty, but it really kind of clears the way for us to see all of the beautiful architectural features that might otherwise be covered up with furniture, such as the glass bookcases that skirt this room. And in the dining room, you have these beautiful coffered ceilings with a hutch built in below a stained glass window, double doors opening onto what look like a patio. And then it also has a modern kitchen, which we can just skip through that. I mean, it's great it has it for that price point especially, but it's not really what we're interested in, at least not what I'm interested in whenever I'm looking at houses like this. This bathroom's adorable. Let's go back to the pictures of the stair hall and start making our way upstairs. At the landing, it looks like there's this built-in seating below the stained glass windows. And this would just be such an amazing place to just kind of curl up and read a book. I do a lot of reading in my line of work, making videos for y'all. And it's this is one of those places that I could see myself just kind of hanging out all day and just kind of doing my research. And then we get to modern bathrooms, which is fine once again, at least in my opinion. You might have a different opinion, and if you do, I mean, let me know down below, because I know it varies greatly depending on who you're talking to in the field and kind of within the preservation community, how, you know, we all kind of think people should live in houses like this. And I mean, a bathroom like this, I would personally be fine with this as my own private bathroom. I mean, it's beautiful. Look at that tile work. That's just something you can't really find today. And then it looks like we might be up in the attic here, and it's interesting to see that there's still these oversized wood baseboards, these beautiful old wood doors. It doesn't really look kind of like you would expect an attic in this area to look because it's so well finished out. In the basement, you can kind of see how it's structurally supported by its foundation with these huge stone block walls and the brick archways. So that's a really neat thing to see. I'm glad that they included those pictures. Let's go ahead and move on to the next house. This time we're going to go over to Columbus, Georgia. It's listed for $350,000, 5 beds, 5 baths, over 7,500 square feet, and it was apparently built in 1837. Now, this is one of those houses where the price and the size might sound too good to be true, but honestly, if you were to put in enough work on this one, it could truly be magnificent again. It has parterre gardens, huge fluted columns, wrought iron work. This is one of those houses that is just absolutely gorgeous all the way around, but it takes a little bit of imagination to put it back together. And I'm not 100% certain exactly what happened to the house, and you're going to see what I'm talking about whenever we're done seeing the gardens and actually get there. Because with this scale of a house at this price point, you know there's going to be some elbow grease involved in truly making it your own dream home. And I don't know if anyone's ever dealt with houses that have been through hurricanes or house fires or some sort of terrible natural disaster, what it took to really bring them back to their former glory. But I mean, you can imagine that this would be years of work potentially if you were doing it by yourself or with your partner, or maybe just a lot of money to put back together, but you can see that what has survived in this house might actually be worth restoring. And I really do hope that someone purchases this with the intent of restoring it rather than demolishing it, because what's here is really a bargain for that price. So we'll leave it at that and move on to the next house. This house is in Virginia. It's listed for $325,000, 6 beds, 4 baths, 5,000 square feet, and it was built in 1870. The listing touts it as one of the last remaining octagon houses in the United States, which is a totally fair point to make. The numbers on octagon houses are dwindling as the years go by, as they're demolished for new construction and whatnot. So let's just start going through this. I mean, it has a lot of great curb appeal, and it's not an octagon house in the truest form because it does have these wings that extend on either side of it, which is kind of nice because I don't know if you've ever been in an octagon house, but imagining living in one with all the weird angles can be a bit of a challenge. At least I've heard that from people who have had personal experience. But either way, the people who live in octagon houses, they tend to really embrace it, which is really great to see. I mean, just some really passionate homeowners. And maybe that could be you in this house. I mean, here's a good example of the strange angles that you can find in a room, but they look like they've really embraced it and done the best that they could with it. And then you also have rectilinear rooms throughout the house, such as this library. And there are just some absolutely gorgeous bits to this home. It's a bit hard to see. I believe the sign outside said that it was a museum, which would make sense. But if you were to imagine this more as your own dwelling, it might not be as crowded and you might set it up a little bit differently. Next, we're heading up to Waterloo, New York. This house is listed at $299,900, 4 bed, 3 bath, over 4,700 square feet, and the listing says it was built in 1855. This Georgian house has a lot of curb appeal. We're going to find these large fluted columns, stone relief work featuring festoons and other decorative motifs. Some highlights of this house include the old wood floors, the marble fireplace with the intricate relief work, and then rooms like this that we can see beyond the French doors. This might have been a ballroom, it might have been a music room. Without furniture or more context history, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what we're looking at, but either way, I mean, there's these beautiful spaces all throughout this house. And then we find spaces like this too, where once again, we're not really sure what we're looking at here as far as what the room is, but we can see these beautiful door surrounds, gorgeous windows, and I mean, my goodness, just look at this. This is a lot of bang for your buck, under $300,000. I mean, where else are you going to find a mansion like this that is fairly attainable for just about anyone house hunting in the US? So even though the house is listed for such an attainable price, whoever is buying this is really buying something that should have appreciated with time, but instead kind of went the opposite direction because you do get these artisan features that would just be too expensive to practically replicate today in a house, especially in this price range. So we'll go ahead and leave it there and hop on over to our next house in Warren, Pennsylvania. It's listed for the same price of the house that we just saw for $299,900. It has 4 beds, 3 baths, over 4,300 square feet, and was built in 1890. This is also an arts and crafts style home. We can see that it has the stone first floor, shingles on the second, and to me, this is really charming. This is right up my alley as far as the type of homes that I might consider myself living in. Now, I did forget how the interior looks, but just from the exterior alone, I mean, that's very much my own style. So you pass through the front door into the entrance hall. You have an angled nook facing the grand staircase, wainscoting on the walls, and on the fireplace, we can see that it has all this intricate carving. And this is just, once again, talk about bang for your buck with a house under $300,000 that has all of these artisan finishes throughout. And it looks like maybe this was set up as an office or a workspace at one point. We did see an exit sign and then things like this, that like a paper towel holder or something on the wall. But either way, the surviving architectural features here, which it looks like is probably near 100%, is exquisite. I mean, you can imagine this with a little bit of fresh paint, maybe some new light bulbs, and then some furniture to really complement everything, and you would have an insanely beautiful home here. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up with just a few detail shots of this house with the stained glass. And then at the landing, it's a really charming home that should really be returned to a residence instead of serving as an office. And I hope whoever buys it maybe sends me some pictures of what they do with it, because I would just love to see how it's returned back to its former glory and lived in once again. Our next listing is in Ashland, Illinois. It's listed for $289,900. It has 5 beds, 3 baths, and over 4,000 square feet. This Queen Anne style house was built in 1890, and this is another one of those examples of as we go down in price, somehow the quality of the house actually goes up. So we can see right off the bat that this house is absolutely in pristine condition. I mean, look at how the woodwork just glows in the lighting here. And it looks like not too much has been done to update the house over the years aesthetically. It looks like whoever lived here mostly maintained the original charm, the original aesthetic, and really put a lot of love and care into just kind of preserving the house as is, which almost lends itself to a time capsule. Of course, we see modern furniture mixed throughout, but it's really the house we're looking at and not the furnishings nor the decorations, even though some pieces like this hutch are absolutely gorgeous in this space. And then there's a modern kitchen, and this isn't like updated in the 70s or 80s. This is probably less than 20 years old that we're looking at here. So, I mean, it's very livable. It has shiny new appliances. And it's just kind of wild to think that in this price point, you can get a big house that is move-in ready, that has all this historical charm that we love so much on this channel. So we'll just kind of keep zipping through these pictures, but I will once again have this down in the description if you want to continue looking at all the pictures on your own. And then, of course, feel free to come back and comment if there's something that you saw in one of these listings that I didn't mention. And if you just want to share that with everyone else in the comments, that's totally okay. All right, our next listing is in Broadnax, Virginia. It's listed for $199,000, 4 beds, 2 baths, over 4,500 square feet, and was built in 1907. Now that we've dropped below $200,000, you might have a hard time imagining finding anything that's maybe move-in ready and historic, but this house might be a pleasant surprise for you. Not only is it bricked all the way around with large verandas and windows, but it also has a tiled roof. Now, as we head inside, we'll see that this house has been meticulously cared for, and even though it is at this low price point, I mean, walking inside, you would never even guess in a million years that a house like this could be listed somewhere in the United States for under $200,000. It has a lot of these just really large rooms with a bunch of windows and natural light, really every space that you could possibly imagine in a grand home. And if you were to move something like this close to Chicago, I mean, you'd be talking about millions of dollars for a house just like this in the same exact condition. With the same type of like updates throughout. So, I mean, if you're willing to compromise and kind of move away from the bigger cities and just kind of go out there and do your own thing, you can really live it up and have a home of this magnitude that might need just a little bit of TLC to get it to how you want it to be. So the lowest we're going to go on this list is $85,000 in Washington, Pennsylvania. It's 3 bed, 2 bath, 2,300 square feet, and was built in 1900. Now, I'll tell you right up front, this house does not have a lot of historic charm left in it, but what you're getting for the space and the quality of the house, I mean, obviously it needs a little bit of TLC, but you still have stained glass windows, you have the old fireplace surround, and then if we see through this opening here, it has the grand staircase, which, once again, a house at this price point of this age, it's going to be really hard to find these types of things still intact and in such good condition, even if the house does need a little bit of work from what we can see in these photos. This could really be gorgeous if someone put a little bit of TLC into it. And finally, we have an honorable mention, a converted church in Pennsylvania listed for $4,999. It has 8 bathrooms, over 15,000 square feet, and was built in 1899. Now, unlike a lot of churches that we've seen converted into homes, this one does not appear to have a large steeple, and it actually looks like a grand mansion that you might find on the outskirts of Philadelphia, somewhere in the countryside. So let's go ahead and go through this, and we'll go through it lightly, just understanding that, to make this a house would require quite a bit of work, but it does appear to have everything you would need to be able to live there while you converted it, including a kitchen, stained glass windows, and all the little things that kind of make it worth your while. And we can see it looks like someone's already been living here. There's a mattress, a full bathroom. I mean, it's an interesting way to live, an alternative way to live, but if you want the space or need the space and you have the budget to heat and cool it, pay for the electricity, which I'm sure that bill is just absolutely insane. But I mean, for $499,000, You really can't get anything larger and nicer than this in the US, at least nothing that I saw for sale on Zillow. And believe me, I spent hours scouring the internet to put together a list large enough for a video like this. But I mean, this could just be a lot of fun. Maybe it's a big family, or you want to like run a club out of your house. I don't know. It's just one of those things to kind of sit back and dream about, like, what would you do with so much space in a converted church? But I don't know, would you ever live in a converted church or some other type of alternative housing? It's kind of fun to think about what some people can do and how creative they can be to turn these old spaces like this into something new. But yeah, that's all I have for you today, and I hope you had fun coming along with me on this tour through Zillow as we looked at houses under $500,000. Just know that if you find yourself really wanting to live in one of these old Gilded Age or Victorian era mansions, that no matter what your budget is, if you look hard enough, you'll probably be able to find a house that suits your needs and desires, but you might have to make a compromise and move halfway across the country to make it work. Anyways, let me know what you thought about this video, if you want me to do this again, or if you want me to just stick to the house profiles. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you next time on This House.